Welcome back to National Geographic Today.
Coming up in this half hour, it only takes a Texas two-step to cross the border. Los Dos Loreros, a little later.
And an amazing underwater photograph and the astounding story behind it. The insights of David Dubélé.
We'll have all those stories coming up in just a moment.
But first, the Iditarod is coming up in about 6 weeks' time. Now, it's one of those great tests of endurance that we all thought we could accomplish, let's say back when we were 16. Remember what it was like to be 16, Tom?
Oh, gosh, reading Dostoevsky all morning, chess club in the afternoon, bitter evenings wondering why the girls didn't call.
1943, that kind of thing.
Recall.
Yeah, sure. Well, in Oregon, there's a 16-year-old young woman who has a vision of what she wants to accomplish and the determination to see it through.
When most of her classmates are getting ready for the winter formal, 16-year-old Rachel Scdoris is preparing to take her team of 12 dogs on one of the most grueling of dog sled races. It's day 5 of the 7-day Attaboy 300 race, and the teenager is headed for a long 35-mile trek through the Cascade Mountains. Being a professional dog sled competitor would be difficult enough for any 16-year-old, but it's an even bigger challenge for Rachel. She's legally blind.
3, 2, 1. Rachel never gives up. She's never, she always accomplishes her goals, and she works hard at them. And that's an inspiration to me as her dad.
Rachel's father, Jerry, who created the Attaboy 300 race, is a world-class champion who taught Rachel to mush when she was only 3. She started competing age 11 and now enters World Cup events against some of the top mushers in the sport.
I've always loved dogs, and I've always had a great time running them, and I'm very competitive, so it was like once I ran all the local races around here and placed pretty high, or if not won most of them, it was like, okay, let's move on to the next level.
Rachel has been legally blind since birth. Her world is of vague shapes without form or colour. She can't see beyond her lead dog. When the dog's traces become tangled, she has to follow the lines with her hands, trying to keep them straight by touch. Her helper, Matthew DeFrancesca, trailing on a snowmobile, eventually has to help her move the dogs into position.
I think the hardest part was just keeping it together, just thinking, okay, it's either quit right now and stay out here in the cold, or finish this leg and then do this again tomorrow.
She's last across the finish line for this leg of the race, but she made it.
Rachel's done an amazing job. She had some real difficulties. Her dogs, her females all went into season right, during the race, and that's a real challenge to make it through 301 miles with 7 females that are in season.
The next morning it snows, and Rachel has a lot to do. Tonight she and her dogs will camp out in the woods before finishing the race tomorrow. Friends and family help her check and recheck her sled and equipment. Race organizers go over a map of the course. It's a map Rachel cannot see. She'll rely on her dogs to follow the trail, and her helper Matt close by on a snowmobile. Just before she starts her 2-day, 43-mile trek, she pets and encourages each member of her canine team. This day's run goes smoother despite the weather. Several times, Matt radios Rachel to warn of sharp turns ahead on the path.
This is actually my first race with Rachel, so it's been fun. Mostly I spend the day 2 miles ahead, just kind of hanging out, so that really surprised me at how little Rachel needs my help.
Rachel finishes the second-to-last leg of the race in good time, regaining a lot of lost ground.
Okay, stop, honey, stop.
After a night of camping, Rachel's up at dawn to care for her dogs. Because she can't see if they've injured themselves, she has to carefully feel their paws, searching for cuts and bruises. Gently, she applies balm to soothe their wounds.
She's worked so hard for everything that she has, you know, and she's just not let anything deter her from her goals.
It's the last day of the race, and once more Rachel prepares for the long trek ahead. This time, a group of young fans is cheering her on.
Rachel Scdoris.
Today will be another good run, a beautiful winter's day and the spectacular cascades. She can't see the magnificent scenery, but Rachel can smell the fresh pines, feel the snow, and hear the eager barking of her dogs.
I don't really consider myself a role model. If someone wants to think of me as one, that's great, but I don't really see why they would. I expected to come here, do my best, have my dogs do their best, and hopefully finish in the top 15 or 20, but that obviously didn't happen. The worst thing you can do is give up. It doesn't matter what your quote-unquote disability is, you can overcome it.
Alaska, and Rachel Scdoris from Central Oregon.
She finishes the week-long race 23rd out of 27, and there are congratulations all round. It isn't a win, but in its own way, it's a victory.
An amazing story of strength and courage there. Now, Rachel's goal is to race in the World Cup of dog sled racing, the Iditarod, next year. And you know, the Attaboy that she was racing in there, set up by her dad, is one of only 3 races that you can qualify for the Iditarod in.
It's impossible to overstate how tough the Iditarod is and what a huge accomplishment that would be for her. I spent an afternoon with one of the great Iditarod champions up in Alaska a few years ago. And even he says just completing that race successfully, just not dying out there in the cold, huge accomplishment. So if she can get there, more power to her.
Good for her. Power to her, as you
It's
say.
a wonderful thing. Well, when we come back, we're going to slow things down a little bit with a tale of 2 cities.
2 cities in one. A city split apart by geography, reunited by community. It's Laredo, Texas, and it's tonight's great neighborhood next.